Hi, I'm Dave Darlington, an engineer in New York City, and this is a Waves tutorial on their Artist Signature Series. Today we're talking about the Manny Marroquin bundle featuring 6 versatile, flexible plugins that can really help you sculpt your mix. We're talking about the Reverb, which is a convolution reverb, a sample of Manny's favorite hardware and software reverbs, his go-to reverbs for his mixes. You can see from the interface that there's 3 separate sections. At the top is the reverb section, featuring 6 types and 3 sizes of each type for a total of 18 reverbs. I should note that each size is actually a different sample of a different reverb, so you really have 18 discrete sounds. Down below that we have an EQ section and a compressor, which kind of shapes the tone of the reverb and compresses it to help it be more obvious in the mix. And below that we have my favorite part, which is a little post-effect section, so you can add some phasing or distortion to the tails and help them sizzle a little bit or tuck into the mix depending on what you're trying to do. Our musical example today is a song by my friend Yoni Leviathan. It's called Days of Change. And let me play the chorus for you so you can hear the instrumentation.
These are the days of change and sorrow, paving the way to streets of gold. Everyone pray for peace to follow. Play music, let the love take hold.
So you can hear it's a pretty thick arrangement. We've got live drums and bass. We've got a lot of electric guitars. And we've got some keyboards and a background stack and a lead. We've got a lot of stuff to sit in the right way. We've got to be pretty judicious with our reverbs and our delays to not make it a complete wash, but still have it glue together and be distinct at the same time. So I'm going to solo a couple of the tracks and show you what reverb I might choose to put on and help it sit properly. The first one, the one that I have up on the screen, is for the clavinet. Here's what it sounds like without anything on it. It's got a little bit of a sustained thing from the sound itself, but it's got no space around it. It just sounds kind of direct. So what I did was I chose the space setting the small space setting, one of the 18 presets, which I find to be a really nice sounding sample, boosting a little mids and cutting the lows and highs to shape it in a mid-range peak, and adding a pretty good dose of compression so you can really hear it. Let me exaggerate it so you can hear the tone of it. I'm also adding a little bit of distortion at the end just to make the tail a little bit fuzzy. But the first thing I notice about the sample itself is the quality of the sound. It's a really nice sounding space. And that's what I find about each of these 18 samples, is that each sample is a really attractive sounding reverb in and of itself. So I'm sure when they made the samples, Manny tweaked the parameters on the hardware to get the best sound that he could. So let's hear that clavinet with a little more, with a little less, the way it might be in the mix. That's one trick you do with ambience, is to help everybody be in the same room so that the picture of the stage is coherent. I have a pretty extreme setting on the background vocals. As you can see in the post section, I've got the phaser whacked up pretty high, and I'm using an echo chamber, a medium-sized echo chamber. Again, boosting a little mids and cutting a little bit of the highs to make it a little warmer, and then a really good dose of compression. I'll exaggerate it. So what you really hear is you hear that phaser on the tail, which gives it a little bit of a psychedelic vibe, but also it makes that tail transition into the next section. These background vocals end at a transition point, and that tail with the phaser helps cross the gap so it's not abrupt. I really like that phaser effect. It's pretty awesome. Of course, you always use a little verb on your lead vocals in most cases, so there's a really nice hall setting here. I've turned off the delay so we can focus on the reverb right now. Medium hall, cut some lows so they don't rumble around, cut some highs and a little bit of comp, and some phasing and distortion, just a little bit.
Everyone pray for peace to follow. Play the music, let the love take hold.
A really nice sounding hall. One thing I should mention is since it's a sample, when you change the time or the setting itself, it takes a second to load the sample. So you aren't able to automate that, but you can increase the time up to 200% and half it, 50%. So here's what it would be a little longer.
Everyone pray for peace to follow.
100% is the actual sample, and to me, it's perfect for the vocals.
Everyone pray.
Turn it down a little bit.
Everyone pray for peace to follow. Play the music, let the love take hold.
So that's the Manny Marroquin Reverb plugin, 18 of his favorite hardware and software reverbs, perfectly sampled with some compression and some EQ and some post effects to help it sit just right in your mix.